So you get on the show, you're 19 years old, Eddie Murphy. What was it like? What was the after parties like?
I only went to an after party once.
Really?
Yeah, because I was 19 and it's 1980, 81. So I was the only black person up there and I was the only teenager up there. So I was like, I don't want to party with them. I want to go, it was a club called Bentley's. And I would go to Bentley's. Yeah, you know Bentley's? I would go to Bentley's. I would be.
You heard of Bentley's?
Yeah, that was a hot spot back in the 80s.
Really?
Yeah, I would go there, and I went to an after party once because Johnny Cash hosted, and Johnny Cash said to me when they were talking about the party, he said, "You coming to the party, Eddie?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Because June and I sure do love you."
Oh my God!
So I went and I hung out with Johnny Cash. That's the one party I went to.
Gosh, I'm so happy to meet you right now.
Yeah, good to meet you too, man.
Yeah. Don't get too excited now. Yeah. When was the last time you were here in 30 Rock? Your career took off here in 30 Rock.
And, you know, I didn't even realize I was in 30 Rock till 5 seconds ago. The guy said, "How long has it been since you've been here?" And I was like, "Well, what building are we in?" I was talking to somebody. We came in the garage. I didn't know where I was till I got upstairs. And I haven't been in this building in 25 years.
Is that right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome back. I mean, I'm a biggest fan of yours. I remember like I recite anything you ever did on Saturday Night Live, and like you made me want to be a comedian, you know. And I have this thing. Well, still, please. I had this thing up hanging in my office because this is in my office upstairs. Do you remember this at all?
Yeah, that was when Nick canceled and I had to fill in as host.
Yeah, so here's the deal. Back in the day at Saturday Night Live, they didn't have like computer graphics to show the bumpers that come in and out, so they had to film a photograph of whoever's hosting the show. And Nick Nolte was hosting the show.
Yeah.
And that week, and then I heard that something happened.
Yeah, he got, you know.
Yeah.
I had to fill in, 'cause I was in the movie too, so I filled in.
So you're in the movie too, so they just took, Eddie Murphy was on the cast at the time, so they just cut your headshot out and glued it to Nick Nolte's face.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
That's how long ago it was.
I mean, the original it's hanging in my office, and if you want it, you could have the original, of course, as you if you want it. But maybe that must have been crazy though. I mean, when you as a cast member, did you look at it that way? Cast member gonna host?
We were having fun. You know what it's like on that show, and you ready to go with whatever comes up, you know. So I was having fun.
But you were like, I got to be on Nick's sketches. Like this is crazy.
No, what happened was Nick canceled on Monday.
So you had all week.
He came in, we had the cast meeting, we met with the host and everything.
Yeah.
And then afterwards it was like, "Hey, I'm not coming." So we had to, you know, from Tuesday on, we was, you know, knew Nick wasn't coming. It wasn't like we got a bunch of sketches written.
Was the cast mad?
Nah, you know how it is. Even mad.
Mad was they hated you. It was like, wait, why can't I host?
Nah, it was like, oh, he's not coming, and then it was like, hey, let Eddie host. And you know what made them mad? I didn't say live from New York. It's Saturday night. I said live from New York. It's the Eddie Murphy Show.
Oh my God!
It was crazy. It was crazy. It was meetings. People were having meetings in the hallway crying and stuff. It's crazy.
How dare he? But it's live and that's fun. It's like, but I mean, you hit home runs on that show.
Yeah, you too, man.
I mean, oh no, please, thanks so much. I mean, that's Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. I'm just gonna go real quick. Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. I used to imitate Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood because that's even the songs. Won't you be my neighbor?
Yeah.
That was so good. Buckwheat sings. Here's why I love Buckwheat. I know, and this is a true story because my other favorite thing was when Buckwheat got shot.
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant.
That's one of my favorite things. Me, Barry, and David wrote that because I got tired of doing it because I would be outside, you did Buckwheat, and people start on the street going, "Hey, what's up, Buckwheat?" Hey, we're gonna have to kill Buckwheat because I'm not gonna be Buckwheat, so he killed them all. And one dude called me Buckwheat, and I was like, "Hey, man," I said, "Hey, I look like Buckwheat," and the dude looked me in the eye and said, "Man, you look like Buckwheat to me all my life." He was like crestfallen that I was mad. I was like, "Whoa."
So you went in. Did you ever say, "I got killed Buckwheat"?
I had to kill Buckwheat. Because that was back in the day, you know, where you could wind up really being called Buckwheat forever.
No, you get worried about that stuff because you get one catchphrase and everyone's going like.
Back in the day, you know, if you do one show, you're that character forever.
Yeah, Kramer's always going to be Kramer. That's the way he's going to be. He'd come out with something where he's a detective. You're like, he's a detective, but that's Kramer. You know, it's hard to do that stuff. James Brown celebrity hot tub party. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just insane. I mean, that's like, you hear how loud the audience response is, and I know those things when you're at SNL. I've seen it like happen twice, maybe like that when it's that electric and it's like, oh my gosh, how fun that was. Like, you know, well. But I mean, James Brown. I mean, come on. Well, who thought of celebrity hot tub? Why would he be in a hot tub?
I actually didn't think that was funny till we did it. Barry Blaustein and David Sheffield, who wrote Coming to America with me and Boomerang and Nutty Professor. A lot of the stuff on Saturday Night Live, that really classic stuff, those guys wrote that. And that was one of those things that I didn't get till we did it.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird sketch. It's like, why would James Brown get in a hot tub?
I didn't get it back then. I was like, you know, I think it was urban-induced sketch. I think they was like, you know, if he was James Brown in a hot tub. And when I heard that, I was like, James Brown in a hot tub? They was like, no, listen, if James Brown's in a hot tub, that'd be some funny.
What if you ever saw James Brown in a hot tub? That'd be weird, right?
Yeah, and I did. And back then, I hadn't smoked the joint, so I didn't get the joke.
Then you figured it out. And James ever call you on it?
James Brown actually loved it. James Brown actually told me, I did this horrendous film once. He did a cameo in it. A movie called Holy Man. It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad. And I saw him backstage. He told me, you should do my life story. And I was like, well, I said, people would be laughing. He said, no. He said, they'd be laughing if you was playing around, but if you serious, people would take it serious. He said, yeah, 'cause you got all that in-between stuff. Whatever that.
That's pretty good.
He said all that in-between stuff.
I met him once.
And I think he meant all the hat and the hood and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to get all that stuff, yeah. I met him once and they said, oh, Jimmy, when Mr. James Brown comes, Mr. James Brown's flying. They told me Mr. James Brown.
James Brown.
They said, don't call him James, don't call him Mr. Brown. Don't call him
Mr. James Brown.
I'm gonna call him Jimmy. You know, like, why would I do that? You know, I'm not crazy. So I just said, okay, and now I'm so nervous to meet James Brown. Then I meet James Brown, and I'm like, hello, Mr. James Brown. And he goes, call me James. Call me James. Like, oh my gosh. Like, he's just that cool right back there.
He told me to bury my money in the woods.
That's a weird one back then. That makes no sense.
I went to go see him, and he was backstage. He had curls in his head, and he said, turned around and said, Eddie Murphy. He said, when you gonna start working clean? And I said, what? He said, you gotta stop doing all that cursing, you know, and you gotta make sure you get your money, any money you got, and bury it in the woods. And I was like, why it's buried in the woods? I said, because the government gonna take your money if you have in the bank. The government will take your money. Buried in the woods. You a piece of land, you bury that money in the woods.
Oh my God.
And I said, but can't the government take your land? And he said, well, they won't know where the money is.
Financial advice from James Brown.
And then for years, I would picture, you know, James driving around down south with his money in the woods in different places. Pull the car over. You know.
Give me the shovel.
Give me the shovel. Right? He'd come back with some dirty 20s.
I know everyone always asks you, gosh, Eddie Murphy, gonna do stand-up again? You're gonna do stand-up again? I mean, is it because you're nervous? Is it because you don't want to do it?
I'm not nervous. You know what it is?
Why would think you'd be nervous?
Well, it takes a year and a half to a year to get an act, and I just, you know, more lazy than nervous.
Yeah. You could do it.
Yes, but it takes a year and a half of going to the club just like the old days. You got to go back all the way to the beginning and do it like you never did it before to get an act.
But does the audience, they expect that, oh my gosh, it's Eddie Murphy, everything's gonna be funny?
Yeah, and you got to go up there and go through all of that, you know, having people expecting it to be, you know, something funny and it don't be for a little while.
And then they go,
people go like,
that was not funny. I'm not laughing at that.
That would be much funny.
I mean, but then, and then why the awesome outfits? Look at that.
Come on, man.
That's good though. But why do you do? Why? Because you just felt like that's your look, or you just want to make it? I remember those Eddie Murphy dolls.
Why did I do that?
Yeah.
I was on some Elvis trip back then. I was like,
yeah, you were a big Elvis
guy,
right?
I was trying to be like the Elvis of comedy kind of thing.
Yeah.
With my leather suits on. And,
Well, you just come, I mean, if you have the comeback special, you got to wear the crazy, you got to wear the robe and everything. No, you won't do it. Yeah. So
if
you
I
won't
do stand-up again, I'll come out in a leather suit again. We come out. It's hysterical.
No, I mean, you wouldn't come out in a leather suit.
The
No.
suit was actually destroyed. Like Keenan Ivory Wayans destroyed this suit on a dare. A dare. He found it in the closet and he put it on. And Keenan's like 6'5". He was busting all out the suit. And we was laughing, and I said, hey, I dare you to go out without the suit. And he put on this. Remember on In Living Color, he used to do a character called Frenchie?
The Jerry
started
Curl?
out as a dare. He dressed up like Frenchie and went out. We was out from 11 to 6 in the morning. He never came out of character. And the next morning, the suit was all up.
Frenchie. Yeah. Frenchie.
He never came out of character all night.
What's it like? What has this week been like? You're back on SNL. It's like going back to school? Or?
Yeah, it is a lot like going back to your old high school or going back to college, and because it's the exact same system in place, and it's kind of surreal.
I mean, because this is probably 35 years, is that
35 years since I've been back.
Man, oh man.
Well, I went for the 40th.
Yeah, that's right.
35 years since I've actually done the show.
Wow. Do you remember your audition for the show?
Yeah, I do remember.
What was it? Do you remember what did you do?
They had it was just one guy in the office, the guy named Neil Levy, who was Lawrence's nephew, and he's just sitting in the room by himself. And I went in this office, and he just said, "Make me laugh."
Really?
Yeah.
And did you make him laugh?
I guess so. I'm here.
I guess so, right? Yeah.
Actually, in reality, he did not laugh. He didn't laugh. I just kind of did my thing. He just kind of sat there and looked at me. And then he said, okay, thank you. And I left. And then about a week later, they called me, and it was him and a woman named Liz Welsh. And they said, make us laugh. And I did all my shtick. 'Cause I was doing stand-up, so I was able to do impressions. So I did this is how long ago it was. I did a Jimmy Carter impression. That's how long ago. Jimmy Carter and Muhammad Ali and Howard Cosell, and they just kind of looked at me and stuff, and then they left. Then I came back a third time, and it was Mike Zanella, Liz Welsh, and Neil Levy, and I did my little stuff, and they just looked at me. And Mike Zanella was in the back, and he did like this at one point.
That counts? That counts as a laugh, right?
My big laugh. And then I got the show after that.
So you get on the show, you're 19 years old, Eddie Murphy. What was it like? What was the after parties like?
I only went to an after party once.
Really?
Yeah, because I was 19, and it's 1980, 81, so I was the only black person up there, and I was the only teenager up there, so I was like, I don't want to party with them. I want to go, it was a club called Bentley's, and I would go to Bentley's. Yeah, you know Bentley's? I would go to Bentley's. I would be
You
at
heard of Bentley's?
Yeah, that was a hot spot back in the 80s.
Really?
Yeah, I would go there, and I went to an after party once because Johnny Cash hosted. And Johnny Cash said to me, when they were talking about the party, he said, "You coming to the party, Eddie?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Because June and I sure do love you."
Oh my God.
So I went and I hung out with Johnny Cash. That's the one party I went to.
That's the best. I want to show you some of your most iconic characters here. I'll show everyone here. This is, you have Buckwheat, you have Little Richard Simmons, you have Velvet Jones.
Ah, yes, of course.
Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, James Brown's Celebrity Hot Tub, and Gumby. I mean, these are iconic. I mean, my favorites. I memorize everyone.
That's the older people in the audience clapping.
No, everybody.
And the young people are going like, "Why you got that green on?"
Nah.
Love, you were at the party when Prince had on those skates that lit up, those glitter skates?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Valentine's.
Yeah, he had on glitters. We went to a party when Prince had a roller skating party.
I heard about the story.
It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and we're at his house, and Prince goes, "Who wants to go roller skating?" He was like, "What?" And we went to this roller rink at like 3 in the morning. He had you know how some sneakers they would have when you walk, they would light up?
Yeah.
He had skates that when he skated, they would light up. And it was like,
So it's a dark skating.
it
You
was
just
dark,
see
and he
Prince
said
skating around.
yeah.
No way. Questlove, you were there too?
Yeah. It was just you, me, Larry Grimm, and
It was some people. It was a couple of people scattered around.
yeah.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, can you
It was surreal.
can you tell the Prince story about your chef?
Oh well, I was where I live now. Prince stayed a couple of houses down, and my chef was leaving at like 2 in the morning once, and a car goes by, you know, purple car and the music, and he was like, wow, it's Prince. And a hubcap comes off, and it's got fall, and the car keeps going, and he picks the hubcap up, and it's got the Prince thing on the hubcap, and the car goes and makes a big U-turn and comes back, and Prince says, can I have my hubcap back? I was like, what a great moment.
No, no one else has that story. That's awesome. I was going to go through some of the Eddie Murphy folklore stories that I've heard, if you don't mind. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to, but I'll just name a couple things.
No cheap shots, though.
No, I would never. I would do that. Here's one. You and Jerry Seinfeld started your stand-up careers at the same week at the same comedy club.
Oh, yeah, we started both at the comic strip at the same time, yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow. Who ran that? Do you remember?
Lucian Hold.
Yeah, Lucian Hold.
Lucian Hold.
I used to do that club. Yeah, I love Lucian.
Lucian Hold. A name means the devil's grip.
No, it does not. That's not
But
true.
no, if you take it.
Lucifer, Lucian Hold. The devil's grip.
Yeah, that's what we think. But he was not the devil. He was
He's one of the nicest guys.
Nicest guy. Got so many people started.
Yeah, he really did. Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis wanted you to be one of the original Ghostbusters, but you turned it down.
Yes, but I did Beverly Hills, because I did Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh. All right, so you made a good movie.
It wasn't like I turned it down in as much as I wasn't available because I was doing this other movie.
Do you know who?
The only movie I ever turned down that became a big hit was that Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
You were going to be in that?
Yeah, I was going to be the Bob Hoskins dude, and I was like, what animation and people? That sound like bullshit to me. Now every time I see it, I feel like an idiot.
After 48 Hours came out, Marlon Brando called and asked to have dinner with you.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, that was surreal too.
And you had dinner with him?
Yeah, a few times. A few times I went to his house and had dinner at a hotel, and it had some surreal. You know the most surreal moment? Because I had just done 48 Hours, and Brando told me his favorite scene in the movie, but he was acting to me, and he goes, when you said, I'm your worst nightmare, I'm a with a badge. That means I've got permission to kick your ass whenever. And I was like this.
Wow! That's what I'm like right now.
I was like, God damn, Marlon Brando. I ain't do the like that, Marlon Brando. You should have been in 48 Hours.
Oh, my God. You have one of the world's biggest collections of Elvis memorabilia.
Oh, not anymore. I used to when I was younger.
Yeah, not anymore. No.
Yeah, I got a little older, you know. It's kind of like, hey, man, why I got this I still love Elvis, but he was much cooler when I was younger.
Yeah.
When I got older and you'd start to see the whole picture, it was like, hey, man, take that off the wall. I don't have that jumpsuit on my wall.
Yeah, what am I doing now? Yeah. What am I doing?
Sell all the jumpsuits, man.
Right before you landed at SNL, you were fired from your job as a shoe salesman.
I wasn't fired. I quit that job. I worked at Chandler Shoes at the mall out on Long Island, and I quit.
You quit?
Yes, I quit.
Chandler's?
Chandler Shoes.
Well, everyone at Chandler Shoes, you missed out. And thank you for this gift, because Eddie Murphy is now with us, and we're so happy. Eddie Murphy, everybody. Welcome back to New York City. You were born in Brooklyn.
Born in Brooklyn.
That's right. Raised in Long Island. You got SNL when you were 19. But you actually have told the story about when your comedy career first took off. You were at a local, it was a talent show or something in Long Island. And do you remember doing that?
The date was July 9th, 1976, and the first thing I did when I got on stage was I did an impression. I sang Let's Stay Together like Al Green.
Really?
And I had on a beige suit and a green tie, because of Al Green. And I turned it out.
You did, yeah. And you felt it right there. You go, I got this. This is my...
No, I heard a girl in the audience, after I sang the first line, I heard this girl named Libby go, woo! And
That was it.
That's what I've been in the show business ever since.
That's all you want is a woo. That's all you want. Yeah. You've met some. You're getting a couple woos right now. Right? I was thinking it'd be fun to maybe show you some photos of you with some legends, and you tell me if you got a story behind. This one is great. You and James Brown. Also, Jesse Jackson.
Hey, come on now.
Look at that. Come on.
No.
Look at Al, too. What do you remember about James Brown?
There's a lot more going on in that picture than James Brown.
There is. Where was it?
Look at Al Sharpton.
Look at Al, man.
Jesse Jackson. Yeah. And look at my hair.
You looking good.
I think I might have had a little, back then, I think I might have had a little tiny little, you can't see it, a ponytail. I might have had a little tiny little rat ponytail.
No. You did that?
Just for a nanosecond. When Prince came out, everybody went crazy. Everybody started, putting ponytails in and wearing all kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That was a Prince influence.
Yes, that was a Prince influence. But did James like a hot tub, celebrity hot tub, when you did it on SNL?
Yeah, when I met James Brown, I had met him before. I did a movie and James Brown was in the movie. And he came up to me afterwards and he was like, you should do my life story. Wow. And I was like, wow. He said, but James, wouldn't people be laughing? He said, they ain't gonna laugh if you do it serious. People gonna know that you're serious. He said, they ain't gonna laugh.
Wow.
Then he told me, he said, you got some nice big arms there. His daughter was standing next. He said, you got big arms. He said, don't you got big arms? Then he told me, he said, I know you married, but my daughter's available.
He could have.
And then I laughed and he said, I'm serious.
Well. Could have been.
So he must have liked the impression.
Yeah, he liked the
impression.
Yeah,
he said, do my life story. Have my daughter.
Take my daughter. Yeah, exactly. He really liked the impression, yeah. Here's you getting the Mark Twain Award from President Obama.
Yeah. In the Oval Office.
I mean, was that the first time you met the president?
Yeah, that was the first time I went to the White House and all of that. And was in the Oval Office and they gave me a trophy. Look at my face. I'm all fanning out. I'm all happy and gritty.
What did he say to you? Do you remember what he said?
You know what he said to me? It's a picture when we're standing face to face, and he asked me, he was like, so what kind of rinse are you using in your hair? Because my hair was black. And I was like, what?
What kind of rinse?
What kind of rinse are you using? And I said, I don't use any rinse. And his hair is salt and pepper, so he was like,
what kind of rinse?
He was like, wait a minute. And I said, actually, Mr. President, you're actually, I'm actually 3 months older than you. You're like born in August. And he said, that's not making me feel any better. That's another great picture I wish I had.
I'm giving you all of these on the way out.
Who did he just fight? He had just leaned into my ear and he said, that guy hits like a mule.
I'd be afraid. I would be afraid, right?
Yeah, he had just knocked the guy out, but he said he hit like a mule.
Speaking of number one, Beverly Hills Cop comes out, and it was the number one movie for 14 weeks. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
When you're doing that movie, do you go, oh, this is gonna be a hit? I feel it.
No. In fact, nobody knew, and the movie was kind of doing this new thing, so nobody knew till it came out. When we finished the movie, the script woman on the show, she wanted to take an alias. She took an alias. She didn't want to get a screen credit. It was like, I don't want anybody to know I had anything with this.
Is that
movie.
right? She
Yeah,
didn't want her
what
name
it was.
attached to the movie.
Yeah, so nobody knew. Then the movie came out. Because Beverly Hills Cop, before Beverly Hills Cop, there were the action comedy. There was no, it was either action or a comedy, It wasn't, they didn't mix the two. And Beverly Hills Cop is kind of like the first action movie with cops and all that stuff, where the action is serious and the bad guys are serious, but then really funny stuff happens. Yeah. So it kind of was like the beginning of this genre.
How do we set up what's happening in this new Beverly Hills Cop?
I don't know. Were you going to show a clip?
Yeah. That would help. The clip will help.
Here's Eddie Beverly Hills Cop. Take a look. I don't know what clip y'all going to show.
I don't know either. We have no idea. What do you think the clip would be? I think it's you holding the gun.
I'm sure it'd be something where I'm being funny, I hope.
You want to see Eddie Murphy be funny? Watch this movie, Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. Here's a clip.
Yeah.
Put your hands in the air.
Now you show up. We wish you were not getting shot
I
at.
said hands.
I'm a Detroit police officer. My name is Axel Foley. My badge is in my pocket.
Don't reach for it.
I've been a cop for 30 years. I've been black a whole lot longer. Trust me, I know better.
You know, this is very embarrassing.
Yeah, well, you should have thought of that before your little joyride back there.
Seriously, this is your squad car?
You know, part of me rather get locked up for resisting arrest than get put in this little Fisher-Price looking mother all rolling around.
Y'all are the Lego cops.
Come on! That's how you do it, man. That's how you do it.
That's my daughter. That's arresting me. That's my daughter, Bria.
That's right. She's in the movie. Ah, Bria, great job. Gorgeous, by the way.
And her husband is in the movie as well. There's another scene where I get arrested and her husband tases me in the neck.
Oh my God.
My son.
Kind of like that scene too much, right? Yeah, you go. I just love that you're rocking the jacket. I mean, you're wearing the Detroit jacket. You brought one here. This is what I'm talking about. This is the jacket right here.
They were like, Axl still has on the jacket. I was like, really? He has on the same jacket from 40 years ago?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, it's part of his Axl's whole look. It's like, I guess
Yeah.
it's like Indiana Jones's hat, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you brought some tonight for the Roots, which I'm psyched. It was very nice of you to do that.
Yeah.
But that's not all. You actually brought jackets for the entire audience. Everyone is going home with the special edition Beverly Hills Cop jacket. That's how you do it. Eddie Murphy right there, the best.